dear Angular heroes. What if I tell you, with one simple CLI command, you will make the users of your Angular application happy? What about near instant loading of your application, regardless of the network speed, even in offline mode? What about super easy setup of push notifications? Does it sound exciting? Yeah. If you remember yesterday's keynote, Angular PWA, Progressive Web Applications Support, was one of the key points there. My name is Maxim Salnikov, and I'm here to introduce you the efforts of Angular team regarding creating of automatic progressive web applications. And the resulting product is called Angular Mobile Toolkit, or just Mobile Toolkit. I really love to present about PWA and its ecosystem, because this is cutting edge of web development at the moment, and as a UI engineer of products from the future, this is not a joke, I really love to be on this edge and sometimes beyond this edge. I'm Google developer expert in Angular. I organize a local Angular meetup in Oslo, where I live, and also I'm the organizer of legendary NG Vikings conference in Copenhagen. This is my Twitter. Please follow me. I just posted these slides 1 minute ago, so you can always find these slides and many other awesome stuff there. Before going to Mobile Toolkit, let me introduce you the concept of PWA. And it's a good point to start with the impact it makes to web ecosystem. Let's list some milestones. Mid-90s, we create my homepage static websites or web pages. We are webmasters. JavaScript came, and we were happy to entertain our users with some snowflakes during Christmas time. Ajax revolution, and it was the thing. It makes us possible to send HTTP requests and receive responses and process responses right from our application without need to reload the page. Then, media queries introduced the way to build responsive web design. Now our applications look great on any device, any platform, any screen resolution. Now, in 2015, PWA, Progressive Web Applications, came. What is it? Let's refer to Wikipedia. First, this is a methodology. This is not a platform, not framework, not library. This is actually a collection of browser APIs and some practices connected with these APIs. Second, this is a hybrid. And as any hybrid, it inherits the best parts from its components. In our case, this is web platform and native mobile applications platforms. But do not be confused by the term hybrid. This is not about hybrid mobile applications at all. For example, the ones we built with awesome Ionic. And by the way, Ionic has its own support for progressive web applications. From the same page, there are 10 characteristics of progressive web application. I bet you use some of these characteristics right here, right now, today. So you create responsive layouts, you serve your application using HTTPS to keep security. I want to emphasize some of them, 3 to be precise. Service worker. This is the heart of progressive web application concept. And this gives us the possibility to have connectivity-independent experience. So in general, in super simple, this is a man in the middle. It's a JavaScript that sits between your application and network. And it sits in client's browser. Thanks to service worker, we can create app shell architecture. What is it? It's just a set of static files, all we have in our application, that on the first visit we can take and put into the cache, into the client's browser cache. It's not the regular cache, it's special storage called cache. And we use Cache API to work with this cache. What's next? Why do we need it there? On the next requests of these resources by the browser, we can serve these assets straight from the cache by passing the network. So this is how we create offline experience. Last but not least, we can re-engage our users and entertain them by, and sometimes annoy them, by push notifications. And there are two APIs responsible for this. They are separate, but often they work together. Push API and notifications API. Good. For your better understanding of collection term in PWA definition, I listed some of involved APIs. So this is real umbrella of browser APIs. And it's all based on promises. It's all asynchronous, like the modern web should be. Cool. Now we are experts in progressive web applications, right? Back to Mobile Toolkit. You can find it on a special website called mobile.angular.io. Unfortunately, 90% of the documentation is hopelessly outdated. This is why it makes sense to listen to the rest of the session very carefully. Number one question in issue tracker of this GitHub repo is, where is mobile flag of the CLI? It was there sometimes before. And yeah, now the answer is simple. There is no mobile flag. But please do not pack your belongings. We're still here. Let's go to NPM to check what's there. There are two packages connected to Mobile Toolkit: Service Worker and App Shell. Let's start from the second one. Actually, this is extra level of performance of App Shell, introducing server-side rendering for immediate show something to our users. Also, it introduces really great developer experience by having two special directives, shell render and shell no render. This gives us control on the visibility of components we want to have during render time and runtime. For example, spinner, some progress versus some list of dynamic content. Unfortunately, this package is not yet integrated into CLI. So we skip it for today. No worries. We will still have the application shell, the general one, using service worker. In our case, this will be Angular service worker, or its shortening, NGSW. If we check the repo, there are four main parts. Bundles. This is Angular service worker itself. This is JavaScript file, regular and minimized versions. So we take this file, we put it in our distributive folder of our application, we register it, and we are go. Second, set of plugins for build systems. For now, these are plugins for Gulp and Webpack, and these plugins help us to automate this process. Plus, introduces some extra nice functionality. We'll have a look at it later. Companion, small library that helps us to organize communication between Angular service worker and our application. Last but not least, source code of Angular service worker. It will help us to extend it by our own functionality. It has really interesting plugins system. We'll have a look at it a bit later. No more reason to wait. Let's go for this magic command. But let's just install it first. And here is magic command. Actually, no magic at all. What it does, it just sets service worker field equals true in Angular CLI JSON. We can do it just by hands. Next, let's build our app. And important notice, Angular service worker makes sense and works only in production mode. So do not forget to put this -- prod. OK, we built it, succeeded. Next, let's check what happened. On our index.html, there is new line appeared. And this is just a registration of one more JavaScript. OK. Plus, there are 3 new files in dist folder. First one, this is registration script, a tiny script that registers your service worker. Second, service worker itself that copied from this bundles part of Angular service worker. And some manifest. OK, where's the magic? Now, if you serve this application from dist folder or deploy it somewhere, if you open it once, and then you can go to offline mode, for example, using Chrome DevTools, and magic will happen. Application will work in offline mode without internet. How that's possible? Thanks to static content caching plugin of Angular Service Worker. Let's have a look at this manifest. Important notice. Probably if you heard about PWA, you already know that there is some manifest, JSON file with some settings. Do not be confused. This is different. So this manifest, called NGSW manifest, is a setting file for Angular Service Worker. It's not the one we have like regular manifest for our PWA. So we will have 2 manifests, one for service worker, second for application. What's there? Just list of files generated by CLI, plus some hashes. OK, now we probably understand how it works. Angular Service Worker, on its start, takes this list of files and put it into this special storage called cache. Next, on request of this file, it just takes this file from the cache instead of going to the network. Offline experience, voila. Why this hash is there? Probably for keeping track on version of the file. We updated the file, we regenerated the hash, and this is a signal to Angular Service Worker to send some message to application that update process could be started. Of course, we don't want to generate this list and calculate these hashes by hand. Fortunately, Angular CLI does it for us. So this is one part of this integration. One small nuance. If you open your application built this way in the web browser in offline mode, and you will use just slash instead of full index.html address, you will see our old good friend, offline Dino. But it will work with index.html. Why? Because Angular Service Worker expects explicit list of the files to be served from cache. But we can easily solve it using a plugin called root redirection. It's super simple to set up. It's just routing key and where to route. Obviously, it's index.html and what to route. Must-have option is slash. We just want to serve this address as well. Next, we can take all the routes of our application, and we can specify them with the exact match or just using prefix field equals true, say that, OK, everything that has this prefix will be redirected in terms of service worker to index HTML. Good, super simple. But you can ask me, we have this NGSW manifest auto-generated, right, by Angular CLI. How could we specify these extra settings? Because they will be overridden on the next build. Quite simple mechanism. You just create same file with the same name, NGSW manifest, in the root folder of your application, and on the build, these two will be merged, right? Merged. Sorry. Oh, yes, they merged. Let's have a look at our application in offline mode. Let it be on some mobile device. But to be honest, it has to be Android device. Yes, so thanks to static content cache plugin, we can create, oh, yes, now all my clicks went there. Sorry, it's a bit early. Yes. So what could be in our app shell? It could be nice toolbar or header, logotype, and probably some spinner to show that something will be loaded when we will get the network to, we'll get the access to the network. Nice. We can make it even nicer. You know, many of our applications use some static content, but served from external sources, like fonts, like web fonts with icons. Special plugin called external content caching solves this problem. Super simple. You just specify the list of resources, external ones, to be cached during service worker startup. Good. Now we can introduce extra level of awesomeness to our application. Very nice. But it was all about static content. Local one, external one, but static. What about optimizing dynamic content loading? For example, what it could be? For example, we can, if there is no access to network, we can serve, for example, the news from this morning, not from this moment. It will work much better than showing offline dyno. OK, there is one more plugin called Dynamic. And we configure it the similar way, field dynamic, and we define groups. We give a name to the group, and some extra settings, like set of URLs, will follow some caching strategy described in cache field. Let's have a look a bit more detailed. URLs. For example, our backend API match, it could be prefix-like, it could be regexp, it could be exact match, everything possible, and cache. The main switch here is optimize for, and there are two options, freshness and performance. Obviously, for this kind of APIs, like breaking use, we go for freshness. That means that service worker on the request of this API will go to check network first. And after some network timeout, if this happens, it will go to check if something in the cache. OK. For example, for different kind of APIs of our application, we can create another group and optimize it for performance. What it could be? For example, something like API/archive/2016. No need to go check network each time. So we can try to check cache, our local cache first, if something was already loaded there. In addition to this strategy switch, we have pretty scrupulous set of settings how to fine-tune this caching experience. We can specify the time of life for our cached assets. We have the property to specify maximum number of entries we store in cache. Furthermore, we can go even deeper and specify the strategy we invalidate cache. So it's super fine tuning. Nice. Unfortunately, it's not in the master yet. It's in a separate branch, but it will be merged, and it will come really soon. Fine. Now we have full control on dynamic content. Really great. So this is how application could look like in totally offline mode. Before introducing push, I would like to say a couple of words about this companion library. Remember, the one that is responsible for communication between service worker and our application. How to start working with this? All is Angular way. In our module, we import corresponding module. We put it in import section. Next, in our component, we import special class called ng-service-worker. We inject it in constructor, dependency injection Angular style, and it gives us an access to some really nice methods. For example, we could implement really gentle up-update flow. What do I mean by this? We can subscribe our application to listen to service worker updates. And if the newer version of our application came, it will issue the event with type pending. What can we do on this moment? We can ask user, are you OK with updating the application to a newer version? It's a really good idea to ask because, newer version of application has totally different experience, design, whatever. It's just a new version of application. If user answers yes, we just call another method called activate update, and then we'll receive the event with type activation. Here, we can just go and reload the full application because newer version came. Now, we are ready to have a closer look to push notifications. Both subscription and sending notification are multi-step processes involving some parties, some obligatory parties. And welcome to push notifications in 1 minute and 30 seconds crash course. OK, let's start. Subscription. Our application calls push service, or other term message service, and this is always third-party one, bound to specific browser. In case of Chrome, it will be Firebase Cloud Messaging. Service returns us the special object called subscription object with unique identifier of this client. And actually, this identifier goes in the form of URL. It returns it back to app, and from the application, after this successful process, we send it to our backend. Backend is must-have in this flow, and on the backend, we keep track on all these subscriptions. Good. Send a notification. We start everything from our backend. Using this stored subscription identifier, we send it to push service. In addition to this subscription object, we have to send a payload. In general, it's optional, but in case of Angular service worker, we have to send it to keep all the flow automatic. And in this payload object, by the convention, we have to have a field called notification, where we list all the properties of our notification, like title, content, image. There are many settings in notification API standard. Only then, this push service, which is third-party, one for Chrome, second for Firefox, will send notification to our Angular service worker. It will have just a form of event with type push. And only then service worker sends actual notification using this payload that came in notification field of payload object. Ooh, good. So how to start this, how to set this up in Angular service worker? using our old good friend NGSW manifest. There is a special field called push. We want to show notifications, right? But the second key is really interesting. It gives us the possibility to be flexible in scenario when we show these balloons with notifications. For example, when our application in background mode or even the application tab is closed. Or if user is actively working with our app, we can avoid this obtrusive way of showing notification and, for example, just update, say, number of fresh messages on somewhere on the badge, on the message icon. I know you've seen these interfaces. How do we do this? Using our good friend companion. Import it like regular, inject it like regular, and now we have an access to method called subscribe. What it does, do not be confused with these many types of registration subscriptions. This method subscribes our application to the events from service worker. So once service worker receives notification, it brings it to our app, and in the app, we are free to implement our own logic how to show this notification or totally ignore this. In addition, we have one more interesting method called register for push. Actually, this is the one that goes first, initiates the process of registration for push notifications. Unfortunately, at the moment, it implements only old-fashioned way to register for push notifications using this GCM sender ID in application manifest, which is bound to Google's cloud messaging service. But it's not a blocker for us at all. We always can refer to service worker registration object, which is available, which is generic one. And we can register for push notifications using this newest VAPIT method of authentication. Really nice. We have this piece of puzzle on the place. You remember that one day we have to extend the functionality of service worker because I listed all the plugins we have at the moment there. What about the moment where we need to implement, for example, background synchronization, some notification clicks, notification close, and there are many events in Service Worker API that are not yet in the form of plugins. Let's have a look at the source code of basic Angular Service Worker. It's pretty simple. So it imports the plugins and Bootstrap. This way, we can go for our own custom version of Angular Service Worker. We create our own plugin, we bootstrap it, voila. New service worker with our own functionality is ready. Design document on how to do it is not on the documentation yet, but you can go and check the source code of any available Angular Service Worker plugin, and you will get the idea how does it work. Nice. So what did I mean by automatic in the very beginning of my session? We have this functionality with just specifying some settings in JSON files. Angular Service Worker does everything automatically for us. What exactly it does? App shell, and really nice one. Full control on dynamic content. Push notifications. And all done automatically. Really good. The project is under active development at the moment, so please send your issues, send your pull request to the repo. You are very welcome to do it. And this is all from me for today. Thank you very much.
All right. Excellent presentation.